If I could go back to 6 years ago when I first got my Cricut machine, these are the top Cricut tips I would give myself. I'm Alex Vanover and I'm so glad that you're here. Over the years, I have picked up a lot of crafting tips and tricks, so I've spent some time thinking about the very most helpful Cricut tips and hacks that I know so that I can give them to you, my crafty fam. So stick around until the end of this video and tell me which of these tips was the most mind-blowing for you. Now let's get into it. The first tip that would have changed my life as a Cricut beginner is the hinge method. Use the hinge method with adhesive vinyl to place vinyl decals perfectly straight and exactly where you want them. I tend to use this method with larger pieces of vinyl, but it works with pretty much any size of vinyl decals. Start with your vinyl completely weeded and with transfer tape applied to it, but with the backing still on the vinyl. Notice here that I trimmed down the vinyl backing to fit my sign, and I always recommend trimming the backing if you have a lot of backing around your decal. I like to trim the backing as close to the actual sign or the actual decal as I can so that I can really see where I'm positioning it. Once you have the decal exactly where you want it, put a strip of painter's tape down the middle of the decal in either direction. It doesn't need to be perfectly in the middle, but the painter's tape does need to stick to the blank on either side to keep the vinyl in place. Then pull up one side of the vinyl and transfer tape and trim away the paper backing. Then slowly lower the vinyl and transfer tape down and burnish it in place with your squeegee. Then you can remove the painter's tape, and the vinyl and transfer tape that is already in place act like your hinge, so you can remove the backing and then place the other side of the decal knowing it's already going to be exactly where you want it. Now you'll see me repeat the hinge method with the second layer of vinyl as well. It works every single time. This method would have literally changed my life when I first started making wooden signs. You don't even want to know the lengths that I used to go to when trying to put decals in place back then. The second tip that would have changed my life as a new Cricut crafter is the wet application method. This method is for adhesive vinyl also, or just regular vinyl, not heat transfer vinyl, and it has two main benefits. The first is that you can apply your vinyl with no bubbles. And the second benefit is that the vinyl is repositionable. So if you're trying to apply vinyl on a project like this, where I want to cover the entire back of the acrylic keychain and not have any bubbles, the wet method is perfect. You can use the wet method on any smooth surface that can get wet, such as glass windows or any smooth plastic. You don't want to use the wet method whenever you're trying to apply vinyl to a bumpy texture. I prefer to use it on projects that have solid pieces of vinyl like this, but technically you can use the wet method with any style of vinyl decal. Let's talk about the supplies you need for the wet method. You'll need a vinyl decal, some kind of paper transfer tape. I like to use masking tape since I don't keep paper transfer tape on hand, a spray bottle with water in it, dish soap, a squeegee tool, and paper towels. To create the solution used with the wet method, fill your spray bottle up all the way, then add just a drop or two of dish soap. Keep in mind that it does have to be dish soap, not hand soap. Then put on the lid and shake it up. That's it. I keep the spray bottle with the solution in it all the time for whenever I want to use the wet method. Weed your vinyl decal and then place the masking tape or paper transfer tape over top of the vinyl decal, covering the entire thing. Then take the blank or surface that you're applying the vinyl to and spritz it with the wet method solution. Next, place your vinyl on top of the surface. Before you push or squeegee the vinyl down, it will be repositionable with the water still underneath it. So take your time placing it exactly where you want it. Once it's in place, put a paper towel underneath it and use the squeegee to burnish the vinyl and push the water out. Once all the water is out, begin removing the transfer tape from the vinyl. If the edges of the vinyl are lifting with the transfer tape, then you'll need to lay the transfer tape back down and let the vinyl and transfer tape dry on the surface before removing the transfer tape for about 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes the transfer tape comes right off, and other times I have to let it dry, so just see how your project goes. If you're layering more vinyl on top of this vinyl, make sure you let it dry for 45 minutes to 1 hour after the transfer tape is removed, and then you're ready to go. The wet method would have saved me so much frustration trying to get bubble-free application of big pieces of vinyl as a Cricut beginner. The third third tip that would have changed my life as a new Cricut crafter is using t-shirt guides when applying heat transfer vinyl to shirts. As a beginner, it's super nerve-wracking to press your HTV, not knowing if you eyeballed or measured correctly, and your HTV may be crooked and you may have ruined your shirt. So let me introduce you to the t-shirt guide. You can buy these on Amazon for under $10. I'll link the set that I use in the description below. Basically, these fit up against the collar of the shirt to show you exactly where the center line is and where 3 inches down is to place your HTV design. Be sure to fold your HTV and carrier sheet in half with the non-sticky sides of the carrier sheet facing each other. Then press down lightly to create a line in the carrier sheet. Then you can use that center line you've created in the carrier sheet to line it up with the center line on the HTV guide. You'll notice that I decided to move my design up a little closer to the collar than the suggested 3 inches. But that's because this design is long and the most interesting part of the design is kind of low. So be creative with your designs as always, but knowing that I could have bought this tool in the beginning of my crafting career would have saved me so many shirts. The set that I buy also has multiple sizes of t-shirt guides for adult, child, and infant shirts. You can also buy other t-shirt guides that fit V-neck collars if you use a lot of V-neck t-shirts. But I'll link everything down for you in the description below. The fourth tip that would have changed my life as a Cricut beginner is the parchment paper method. You can use the parchment paper method with any adhesive vinyl, and you can use this method to layer multiple layers of vinyl on top of one another before applying them to your blank. And you can also use this trick to apply vinyl to your blank exactly where you want it, because it allows the vinyl to be repositionable before you stick it down. Begin with all your layers cut out of vinyl and transfer tape applied. Remove the backing of the vinyl and apply parchment paper to the back of your vinyl and transfer tape. But be sure there is a stripe of transfer tape exposed at the top or the side of the parchment paper so you can stick down the layer when you are ready. Then either place your vinyl over top another layer of vinyl or on your blank, and use the fact that you can see through the parchment paper to your advantage to get your vinyl lined up perfectly. Then when you like the placement of your vinyl, stick down the stripe of transfer tape that you left exposed. Then lift up the transfer tape and remove the parchment paper and slowly lower the vinyl in place. Then you can repeat this method with as many layers of vinyl as you have. If you've worked with vinyl before, you know that it's very staticky. So if you try to lower your transfer tape down on a layer or a blank without parchment paper, the vinyl may get stuck in place before you're ready. So the parchment paper method allows you to take your time before committing to the placement of your vinyl. This would have saved me a million recuts of vinyl as a Cricut beginner. I really wish I had known this tip. The fifth tip that would have changed my life as a Cricut beginner is reverse weeding. Reverse weeding can only be done with adhesive vinyl, and I use it most often when I have tiny and intricate details in my vinyl decals, or I'm working with a type of vinyl that is hard to weed, such as glitter vinyl. Begin with your vinyl that has a design cut into it. Do not weed it yet. Take your transfer tape and pull it over top the entire unweeded decal. Then burnish it with your squeegee and remove the backing. Then with the sticky side of the vinyl and transfer tape facing up, remove all your excess vinyl so the weeded design is all that's left on the transfer tape. Reverse weeding helps because all the fine details are anchored by the sticky transfer tape. And once you're done weeding, you don't have to pray that your tiny details will get picked up by the transfer tape because they're already stuck on there. The one thing that I do find makes this method tricky is that I think the cut lines are harder to see when reverse weeding for some reason. So if you experience that too, just try to move near a window or at a lamp to increase your overhead light, and that should help show the cut lines a little bit better. Knowing that reverse weeding existed would have saved me some painstaking weeding as a Cricut beginner. But I also find that using a pin pen weeding tool makes weeding a lot easier compared to the curved hook tools that many brands have. I'll link my pin pen in the description below because it's a total game changer. Which of these tips was the most mind-blowing to you? Let me know down in the comments below. If you learned something in this video, then be sure to give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you never miss a new tutorial and tip video every single Tuesday. Make sure to connect with me on social media at DIY Alex Vanover because I love connecting and getting to know every single one of you. All the hearts.